This is Sparta!
Hi there everyone, Del back again. So I'm just going to set up the DD base for Assetto Corsa, and not the obviously Competizione, the original Assetto. It's pretty simple actually. It's probably one of the simpler ones to set up. Just go to options, down to controls, and you can just easily go through and start the configurator now. Going through the configurator is really simple. You just turn the wheel left and right, check your pedals, make sure everything's set up and everything's working, which it all is. And all my brakes, clutches, clutch, brake, throttle, steering works. It's set it up by at 171, but it doesn't really matter. I could change it manually to 180, but it was 171. Most of the cars actually only have a certain turning rate, so it'll just use whatever's built into the car, so that works fine. The only other things, I use VR, so I just like to check that these two buttons, obviously the center VR, you have to press both buttons at the same time, the glance left and glance right button, so I've just mapped those to two of the buttons on the Fanatec wheel. Now my settings on the actual wheel, I'll have them scrolling up on the screen, and you'll see I've reduced the force feedback and the shock down a little bit more than what it says on the Fanatec forum. I just found it was just a bit too much to run the wheel up to their recommended settings. I find that with the settings in some of these, I've been running up to what the recommended is, and sure, it's giving you a lot of force and you're putting a lot of work into the steering wheel to get it to go around, but I think it's sometimes a bit too much. I think that personally for me, I like to have the strength a little lower, because it does give you what I feel more feeling from the road of what the car's doing coming back through the wheel. When you've got it up higher, you tend to be fighting the wheel more and dealing with the force feedback rather than what you're dealing with the feeling of the actual car on the road. So just keep that in mind. Test the settings that are on the forum, but just have a look at some of these settings, reducing it down, and you do actually get a nicer feel through the car. One of the things that I like to do is I always test the same car on the same track in every sim, usually a Ferrari GT3 on Monza, sometimes Imola, but primarily Monza. And the reason why I do this is because I like to start from a baseline, and I find that using just a GT3 car with the Monza track on every sim gives me a base of what every sim's doing. Most of the tracks, even the laser scan compared to the created tracks, they're pretty damn good. And Monza being a nice flat track, it's the ones that are created not laser scanned are usually very accurate. It's different when you start using tracks that have got a lot of rises and falls in them, because those rises and falls from a laser scan track to a created track can actually differ quite a bit. So this being a very nice flat track does give me a very good baseline on every sim that I use. So, and the GT3 Ferrari it's a pretty easy car to drive, so that again is always a great baseline to go with. So if you're testing different sims, try and stick to a base, because if something happens or something's not quite right, if you're working from a baseline, you can always track it back a lot easier. So yeah, so it's quite a good feeling through the actual wheel now, and I'm finding that I'm getting some really nice results that the sim's giving me. And like I said to you, don't necessarily look at putting higher forces in, because it's really not benefiting you that much. Okay, I'll going to drop off, and then I'm going to come back on and I'll run a lap and see if I can record the steering wheel at the same time so you can see the movements. Okay, so here we are. Now, I don't have my motion sim on at the moment, so my driving is going to be pretty ordinary. Anyway, let's give this a go. So again, having these forces up really high, I don't think benefits in any real way other than creating a lot of work. Having the forces down a little bit lower definitely gives you more of a sense of the fidelity that the base is able to produce. So, and it's not that you're not working hard to get this car around the corner, you still are, but you might find that the higher you have the forces, you're working really hard and not getting a really nice feeling back through the wheel and feeling what the car's actually doing. Which is definitely what I'm getting through at the moment. There's subtle vibrations and knocks and bumps, plus still working to get the car around the corner. Now if you have to do a long race, you could be feeling pretty ordinary after it if you got that force feedback up really high. And it still gives you a kick, that's for sure. And I'm feeling all the differences in the texture of the road coming through the wheel. As road transitions from one type of road to another, I'm starting to feel it. Okay, nice little subtle lap. So play with the force feedback settings, play with keeping them going a little bit higher and a little bit lower, just to sort of get to where it suits you. Like I said, I prefer mine down a little bit lower, get more feeling through the coming through the car, and you'll definitely hit on something that's right for you. My settings may not necessarily be right for you, that's fine. But at least it gives you a starting point, and then you can build from there. This is where, even with the DD1, it's definitely going to be able to produce the forces that you want it to use as well. So, in my opinion, anyway. So, yeah, hope you like that. So, thanks, guys. I'll put my settings down from the wheel in the comments as well. And subscribe, hit the like button. It all helps. And I'll be back soon with another sim. I'll look at Project Cars 2 next, I think. So thank you very much, and appreciate all the feedback. Bye.